Hi, this is Daryl Myatt from Keller, Texas. Today is Wednesday, June 29th, 2011. Several things going on today, so let's get right after it. This first story out of Israel today says Israel to feature big in the U.S. presidential election. It says with the Obama administration having so aggressively rewritten U.S. foreign policy as regards to the Israeli-Arab conflict, the Jewish state is expected to play a bigger role than ever in the upcoming race for the White House. The importance of American policy on Israel became increasingly evident on Tuesday when leading Republican presidential candidate Tim Pawlenty blasted Obama over his treatment of the Jewish state and his wayward peace initiatives. Israeli-Palestinian peace is further away now than the day Barack Obama came into office, Pawlenty told the Council on Foreign Relations in New York, and that's true. But that does not have to be a permanent situation, he said. We must recognize that peace will only come if everyone in the region perceives clearly that America stands strongly with Israel. Other Republican contenders like Sarah Palin, Mike Huckabee, and Mitt Romney have made similarly strong statements in support of Israel and have even visited the Jewish state in recent months. Polls have shown that such unabashed backing of Israel's position is perfectly in line with the sentiments of the American public. The survey conducted earlier this month by Public Opinion Strategies revealed that 56% of American voters define themselves as Israel supporters. Good for them. Here's a report that says Israel threatens to assassinate Syria's Assad. Israel has threatened to assassinate Syrian leader Bashar Assad if he instigates or sanctions any kind of attack on the Jewish state, the Kuwaiti newspaper Al-Jarida reported on Tuesday. The threat was reportedly conveyed to Assad via Turkey. According to the newspaper, Israeli intelligence has become concerned over unusual troop and missile deployments in Syria, movements that could signal an imminent attack on the Jewish state. Israeli experts have speculated that Assad could attack Israel in order to divert attention from his security forces' brutal and bloody crackdown on pro-democracy activists in Syria, or Assad could turn to his Hezbollah allies in Lebanon to do his dirty work. Either way, Israel will hold Assad personally responsible. There is concern also that if Assad sees his regime falling, he could launch one final assault on Israel to secure a lasting legacy for himself. Oh great, there's what you need, a dying madman attacking a country. Lovely. Here's another story that says UN vote on Palestine will lead to war. It says the result of the Palestinian Authority's bid to win international recognition for a Palestinian state at the UN in September is likely to be war with Israel. So, okay, they want them to give up land for peace, but here's the Palestinian Authority saying if they give us land, it's going to lead to war. So why would Israel want to give up any land if it's going to lead to war? If they're going to have war either way, keep the land. Just my thoughts. It says that according to a survey of Palestinian Arabs conducted by the Palestinian Center for Policy and Opinion this week. Okay, this wasn't an Israeli poll. This wasn't a Jerusalem poll or a Jewish poll. This was a Palestinian poll. It says while most Palestinians do not believe the motion on an independent Palestinian state will pass in both the General Assembly and the Security Council, but if it does, they have very specific and violent ideas about what should happen next. If the UN recognizes Palestine, 78% of Palestinian Arabs said their security forces must immediately exert control over all of Judea, Samaria, and the eastern half of Jerusalem, even at the risk of open warfare with the Israeli army. They also want Palestinian forces to seize control of the Allenby Bridge crossing into neighboring Jordan. Wow, sounds like a great idea for peace, doesn't it? It just amazes me the absurdity of the world in general as they're trying to make Israel give up land that God gave them in the Holy Bible, trying to make them give up land for peace when clearly it's not going to work. Clearly. Here's a report out of Ynet News, says Jordan to oppose a Palestinian statehood bid. I'm not going to read the whole story, but basically it says a senior Jordanian official said the Hashemite kingdom will vote against a Palestinian statehood bid scheduled to be put before the UN General Assembly in September. So Jordan is opposed to the Palestinian state. Here's something a little, kind of weird. This out of, what's this out of? World News. Anyway, it says that Riyadh will build nuclear weapons if Iran gets them, a Saudi prince warns. So here's Saudi Arabia going, hey, Iran's pursuing nuclear weapons. If they get them, we're going to get them too. That's just what we need, an arms race in the Middle East. Scary, scary stuff. Not going to read that story either. There's other things I want to get to. Here's something out of the Depka file. Iran has secretly tested nuclear-capable missiles, according to the UK Foreign Secretary. British Foreign Secretary William Hague stated today, June 29th, Iran has also been carrying out covert ballistic missile tests and rocket launches, including testing missiles capable of delivering a nuclear payload in contravention of UN Resolution 1929. Let's see, there was something else I saw in this report. Hague also pointed out in a statement to Parliament that Iran had announced plans to triple its capacity to produce 20% enriched uranium. Okay, you're probably like, yeah, so? This is enrichment levels far greater than is needed for peaceful nuclear energy. The only reason you would go to 20% or more is because you're pursuing nuclear weapons, which Iran has sworn up and down for years that's not their intent. Yet, here we are, as if anyone should have believed them in the first place. Okay, a lot of things happening right now that really point to Bible prophecy. Let me just point out a few. Let me read from Daniel 12:4. But thou, O Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book, even to the time of the end. Many shall run to and fro, and knowledge shall be increased. You know, one of the last day signs that was specifically a sign for the last generations, just prior to Jesus' second coming, is this very prophecy. The Lord made it very clear what the last generation would look like. In Matthew chapter 24, Christ told us the last generation would be just like the people who lived during Noah's generation and Lot's generation. And that has certainly taken place with all the gay marriage approval lately. In Revelation chapter 21, Jesus shows us the last generation would also be a drug generation. And that's come to pass. There's not many houses you can go into these days that don't have some kind of pharmacy prescription for something or other. And all the rampant drug use. Even alcohol's a drug, so, you know, and guilty. I drink beer now and then. I think we are in those days. Add Daniel 12:4 to these other signs, and there's no guessing who the last generation is that Jesus is pointing to. It's clearly ours. You know, and if you still have doubt, Christ also showed in Matthew 24 that all these things would happen when we saw Israel come back as a nation again. Well, that took place on May 14th, 1948. And since Israel's birth, all these things have come to pass. So there's no doubt you're living in the last generation. Jesus said, when you see these things happen, this generation will not pass away until the return of the Son of Man. The generation that sees all these things happening will be the last one. No generation has seen all these things happen yet. Let me give you a few examples of what our generation is doing as far as the increase in knowledge. Well, first let me just say one word: internet. Okay, the internet is a huge increase in knowledge. You can just go online and find out anything about anything. No longer do we need huge sets of encyclopedias that we can look up something. We've got the internet. Knowledge has increased 1,000-fold in the last 20 years. Here's something. This generation has become so smart they can even grow meat for you that's grown in a lab. The first test tube hamburger is only about a year away, scientists claim. They believe the product, beef mince grown from stem cells, could pave the way for eating meat without animals being slaughtered. They say that over the next few decades, the world's population will increase so greatly there won't be enough livestock to feed everyone, so they're growing their own meat. I'd say that's knowledge increasing. You know, the last time man thought he was so powerful, he tried to build a tower in Babel that would reach all the way to heaven. Of course, you know that story and how God stopped them from ever finishing it. I think the same thing is going to happen with this generation when the 7-year tribulation hits. God told Daniel that people would travel back and forth, and never in history have people traveled as much as they travel today. I pulled up a picture a friend sent me of a shot from space of all the satellites and the activity of jets and things like that, and it just looks like the Earth is this busy beehive with just stuff constantly flowing back and forth and circling the globe. It's amazing. Here's something you may not have heard of: the Sonic Star jet. This is going to have a top speed of Mach 3.6. It's going to be twice as fast as the Concorde. This will fly from London to New York in 2 hours. I'd say that's an increase in knowledge. A lot of things these days. Knowledge has increased immensely. You know, if you even look at like the moon launch back in 1969, and I've been to Kennedy where they have these rooms filled with tons and tons of computers, and you look at these computers, and the amazing thing is that all those tons of computers don't have near the power that I can hold in my hand today. This has more power at my fingertips than the tons of computers that put a rocket on the moon just a few decades ago. You think knowledge has increased? I guarantee you it has. Here's another prophecy sign out of 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 1 through 3. But of the times and seasons, brethren, ye have no need that I write unto you, for you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so cometh as a thief in the night. For when they shall say peace and safety, then sudden destruction shall come upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape. You know, when you study Bible prophecy, you come to find out there aren't many prophecies left to be fulfilled before the tribulation begins. One, of course, is Isaiah 17:1, the destruction of Damascus, which has never happened yet in world history. But here's another one in 1 Thessalonians 5:3, which is the sudden destruction that will come while they are still calling for this peace and safety. Now we know what this destruction is going to be. It's clearly going to be a war against Israel. We don't know when war will break out, but we do know it's probably going to be quite soon. There's a possibility that the war may begin as a result of this flotilla of ships that are about to steam toward Gaza soon. Or war could break out as a result of the PLO going before the UN to get recognized as a nation inside Israel territory. Or even if they do get recognized, there could be war breaking out from that story I just read to you a while ago. A lot of things happening right now. I think it's very important that we watch Israel. We keep up with things happening. Speaking of the flotilla, pro-Palestinian flotilla armed with chemical weapons. Here's a story that came out of the Depka file yesterday. It says Israeli intelligence sources reported that some of the activists aboard the boats are extremists who are perfectly willing to forcibly resist efforts to intercept them and are ready to kill Israeli servicemen coming on board. It says they have stored poison chemicals aboard the 10 or so vessels in the flotilla for use against Israeli troops boarding them. They are quoted as saying they have no problem with spilling the blood of Israeli soldiers. Think this is a peaceful thing, this flotilla? No, they're coming to provoke Israel. And Israel's going to answer with a strong hand, as they should. Heaven help us all. Okay, let's see what else is going on. There's just so many things you can watch these days. So many things you can see that relate to Bible prophecies. Anyway, let me get into the Word a little bit more. What does God promise to those who obey Him? I'm going to read Psalm 1, verse 1 through 3 out of the New Living Testament. It says, "Oh, the joys of those who do not follow the advice of the wicked, or stand around with sinners, or join in with scoffers, but they delight in doing everything the Lord wants. Day and night they think about His law. They are like trees planted along the riverbank, bearing fruit each season without fail. Their leaves never wither, and in all they do, they prosper." You know, believers who build their lives on a solid foundation like Christ are like this man a reporter found in the aftermath of Hurricane Andrew I'm reading about. Said amid the devastation and debris, one house still stood firm on its foundation. The owner was cleaning up when the reporter approached him, saying, "Sir, why is your house the only one still standing?" The man said, "I built this house myself. I built it according to the Florida State Building Code. I was told that a house built according to code could withstand a hurricane. I did, and it did. I suppose no one else around here followed the code." You know, if you've built your life on Jesus Christ and His teaching, you will stand when the storms of life come and hit you. You know, if you're not merely a hearer of the Word, but a doer of His true Word, then you will endure. The true Christian, the one who has built his or her life on the right foundation, and that foundation is the rock of Jesus Christ, then they will stand the test. I promise you. Let me read to you from Mark 1, verse 35, out of the NIV. See, I throw all kinds of different translations at you. I've read from the King James, the New King James, New Living Translation, and the NIV. Okay? God's Word is huge. I know a lot of people's comments or complaints against several different translations. You know, I know that many people say, "Oh, well, the NIV is published by the same people that publish porn. They publish the Antichrist book." That doesn't pervert the Word of God. And a lot of times the NIV speaks to people in a way that other translations don't. And I'm not endorsing one specific translation or the other. Okay, I'm gonna endorse one. I like the King James, but I also like the New King James, and I like the NIV to cross-reference with. NIV speaks more like I do. I'm not a Shakespearean kind of guy. I've done Shakespeare. I'm an actor, believe me. I've been in several Shakespearean plays, and I can't stand Shakespeare, to be quite honest. Anyway, Mark 1, verse 35 says, "Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where He prayed." You know, if you're like me, you kind of go at it from morning till night. I have a tendency to just go for it. I don't sleep much. If I get 6 hours of sleep, great. That's all I need. No more. Oftentimes I only get 5. Anyway, the other day I turned on this Christian radio station. I had to laugh when I heard what they were talking about. There was this panel of people that said there's too many Christians that don't take time for themselves and they get exhausted. They said many Christians are worried about taking care of everyone else so that they neglect self-care, thinking that anything to do with self must be selfish. I have to admit I'm a little guilty of that. Spend my days working to provide for my family. Spend a lot of time ministering to provide for people I don't know. My wife gives me a hard time about it sometimes, saying, "You're spending a lot of time doing this thing." I said, "Yeah, I am, and I plan to spend more." But if you're like me, you know, a lot of times you've been running the rat race for weeks and you don't give yourself much of a chance to slow down, take a break. Christ showed us a better way. Okay? He knew the importance of self-care and He took it seriously. Throughout the New Testament, we see Him taking time to retreat, to withdraw from the crowds and even from His own disciples. We need to follow His example. In fact, we read in the Gospel of Mark, He made this a priority. First thing in the morning, He went to a solitary place and He prayed, probably because He knew how busy His day would be and that He didn't want to neglect this most important time. So, let me ask, are you tired? Physically, emotionally, spiritually? Do you need to carve out some time for yourself? Do you need to get away? Do you need a little R&R? A little relaxation in the jacuzzi? Trip to the beach? Climb a mountain? Whatever it is. Maybe you need to take that retreat. Find your time to pray, read, exercise, meditate, whatever it is. Your work, your relationships, and your health will all benefit from it. So take a cue from Jesus Christ and follow His example of self-care. We all need to do that. Okay? So while you're caring for everyone else, take a little time to care for yourself. I promise it will benefit you and everyone around you in tremendous ways. God bless you guys. Good Lord willing, I'll see you again tomorrow.